Hey guys, welcome back to Vince-Vell Custom. So today I'm going to do a review on Golden's new high flow line paints. Now they're not actually airbrush paints, they're made for more, I guess they're more of an ink. It's designed more for, I guess if you get, they have these things where you can buy a pen or a marker and it's empty and you can actually take these paints and pour them into that thing, shake it up, and then you can start writing it as a marker or a pen, and you can mix your different colors and stuff like that. So it's designed more of an ink than an actual paint. And I find that I'm having some issues with it, so I'm actually not liking what they're doing with their paint line, especially for statue work. They had an Airbrush Opaque line here, but this line is canceled, so these paints are gone. And I was actually starting to buy these paints more often because I found that this Opaque line was really good to mix with Tamiya, Vagello, Garage Kit Colors, Citadel, and Badger paints, and I was Createx as well, and I was finding that these paints were really good. But we'll go into the studio and I'm going to show you the difference between what I was able to do with these paints and now with this high flow line. I'm actually not liking the high flow line. I'm actually a little upset that they canned these paints to do this. I guess I can understand what they're trying to do, but we'll come back after I show you what I've been testing and I'll explain my final thoughts. But I guess in the long run I'm actually going to stop buying Golden. I guess whatever I burn out from these paints here, that's it. No more Golden in the collection because I just don't like what they're doing. It's very watery, it doesn't really stick too well, and I'll just show you some of my tests. You know, maybe some of you painters out there are more into watery paints and you like building and slowly and slowly and slowly. There's times where I just need to get a nice solid color going, and something right out of the bottle of the opaques were great. You just boom, one solid color, some shadowing, blending, and you're ready to go. Whereas this, it seems like you got to do a very light coat, wait, dry it, another light coat, wait, dry it, and it's just a little too much, and it's too watery to mix with other paints because it's like you're actually taking the paint, putting it under a faucet, mix it up, and then it's all watery. So let's go into the studio. I'm going to show you the difference between these two colors. Burnt Sienna Hue from Golden Airbrush Opaque is like my color to go to for shadowing flesh tones mixed with Garage Kit flesh tones. I love this color. It was perfect. It wasn't an orange and it wasn't a brown. It was just a perfect mix of a brown color that I really loved. But this color is axed. It's gone. They're not making this anymore. So they now make Burnt Sienna. Not the hue, just Burnt Sienna. And this Burnt Sienna is like orange. I mean like orange. It's not even like brown. I don't understand it. But, well, you know, this is what they're doing. So let's go hop in the studio. I'll show you some of my tests of what I've been coming up with. And then we'll come back. We'll give you my final thoughts. And then from there, you guys can decide yourself if you want to go out there and try the paints, if you think that this paint is more for you, or if you want to stick to what you know and what's working. So let's go in there. We'll come back and show you what's going on. Okay guys, so here's a couple of tests that I've been doing, and I'm going to explain a few things of what's going on. So over here is the high flow, and right here is the opaque. So as you can see right away, there's a different color. This is kind of like a really nice brown, but it's not a black brown, but it's not like an orange brown, where this is like really orangey brown. And spraying it on stuff, you get that orange look where you're getting a brown here. So what I like to do on my statues is I also do a lot of line work, where if I'm going to paint this all blue, I'll actually, you know, put a blue line going across here, and then when I put silly putty and I go to airbrush all this, I have room for error with the silly putty, because if you put silly putty on there and you rip it off, then you got to worry about the line. So this way you get kind of like a little error, you know, room for error. So I do mix a lot of paints into my little cup here, as you can see, and I've had this for years, and it's got lots of drops of paints and everything. So I was doing some tests with the line work of compared to the high flow with the golden, and the golden opaque line was very good. One line would go on very nice and evenly. The high flow would actually have to follow the line a few times. I did it right here on the face of her. So let's get a little bit closer. Like, it's very hard to see the color in here. It didn't really go on thick, whereas this color just went one on right real quick. So this actually sticks pretty well to like like a really smooth glossy surface. So if you were to actually like gloss coat something and mask it off and then do something else, this sticks very well. Whereas the high flow, it's there, but it's very, very light. It's kind of like painting watery ink onto the statue. So I didn't like that too much. I did a test here where I did one shot of the opaque right here. It went on pretty good. It did a little bit of a bleeding, but that's kind of normal on the gloss, whereas this one right here was very hard to see, and it just kind of started bleeding off right away. That's kind of a little bit of a messy area. And then I was doing some more tests up here, as you can see. Now, this part right here, I had to build this like 5 layers. And every time I was building it, it just kind of bled and it didn't hit areas very well. Whereas this was actually one shot. I just went right on and it stuck and it stayed. It's a little bit shinier, the opaque line, but that was fine for me because I could always dull that down and that was never an issue. But the high flow line, it takes very long to actually start building it up. And even when you build it up, it's not actually hitting in certain areas. So as you can start to see, it kind of groups together. It's kind of like water. It kind of just grabs. And I didn't like what that was doing too much. I also did a little bit test here, just like on an item, real quick. Let's see if we can see. If you can see the item, it kind of see right there how it's bleeding at the top edge. It just bleeds. It's like it's reacting. Where like if you had a Windex on some paint or something, the item just starts paints to start to bleed. So the high flow line doesn't seem like it's very statue friendly. Whereas if you're going to be painting on maybe particle board, illustration board, canvas, watercolor paper, I think the high flow line is what they're targeting. I don't think they're targeting statue work as well. And I'm just finding it's kind of more and more issues. Plus, they canned a lot of colors from the line too, and the colors that I was actually starting to enjoy. They said they made other colors, but I can't actually go out and buy all these new paints now and test them and say, well, oh, they're great or they're bad. It's kind of like, maybe slowly I'll test them some more, but as of right now, they're not statue friendly. So that's what you can see so far. I'm not enjoying it, so those are my tests, and let's go back and we'll do some final thoughts on it. Okay guys, so as you can see how I like to test everything new that I do, whether it's a new paint mixture I mix up, or it's a specific color, or if it's a paint brand I don't want to try. So, the high flow line. My final thoughts on it are it's not good for statue work. It's more of an ink, and I think what Golden is trying to do is they're trying to target the traditional artists where you're painting on watercolor paper, illustration board, canvas. They have these empty pens and markers where you can actually take these paints or these inks, pour it into there, and the ink actually goes through the pen and you can use it as a marker. So with these inks, you can actually start mixing up different colors and make yourself your own kind of markers with specific colors. But painting directly out of the bottle onto a statue, it doesn't work so well because it's too watery. It's an ink. And as you can see, it's not sticking like these opaques were sticking. Now, if you saw my Street Fighter Blanca video that I finished up, I used this golden bright yellow green out of the bottle. Like I shook it up, sprayed, just went on nice and smooth. I didn't have to do 20 or 30 coats. And I got my base, green onto a Blanca. And then from there I started doing my shadowing. I was actually mixing this with this. And then I started getting my shadows and I started building up the skin tone. So it makes me wonder, if I was to actually spend money on these high flow, how many coats do I have to do to get what this was doing in one shot? And that scares me because I can't sit there and do, a light coat, let it dry, another light coat, let it dry. That's too much work just to get your base color onto a statue. Now, I also would use these colors. I would do a couple drops onto my little mixing cup, and I was able to paint a nice line around a cuff or around the neck outfit, then mask out all the skin with silly putty, and I can do a nice base coat of a color blue, and then I can shadow it all up, pull off all the masking, and I have that little room for error. Whereas the watery paint, if you actually use your brush and you work on the statue, if it's too watery, it'll start bleeding through the item, and that's what you want to stay away from. That's too much. that's too much of a risk. If you do all your beautiful skin tone on the statue, and then you start doing the line work where it's not thick paint stain, and all of a sudden it just starts bleeding through stuff, then, or if you spray this high flow onto a statue and then you have your masking area, whether you use tape or silly putty, that watery paint actually will start to seep through and bleed. So when you pull off the masking, you got like this little glob of like liquid water that bled through, and that's risky. I don't want to sit there, spend 3 hours on skin tone, mask it off, do an outfit, pull off the masking, and then all of a sudden I gotta friggin' repair and fix all that skin tone now. So the golden high flow, I think, is just not even going to be in my rotation. The only color I have right now is the burnt sienna, and it's too risky to buy up all these other colors, test them out, and then make errors. The opaque line was perfect. I never had a problem where, I masked off skin and I sprayed the golden on and it bled through anything. I never had that problem. These opaques were working very well with other colors like Tamiya's. Like if I had the blue Tamiya, which is very thick, instead of using like a thinner, I would actually use this blue opaque, and I would actually pour the blue into that blue, and it would thin it up enough, but it wouldn't make it super watery. So I was actually enjoying how these colors mixed with other colors from other brands. So now that these are gone, it's too risky to use the high flow on statues. I'm going to look more for thicker paints when I do hair, line work, or if I have to do like a little type stuff, because painting statues, you don't always do everything airbrush. Sometimes you have to use a paintbrush. So I'll look into picking up more of the Vince-Vell airs, model air paints. They're a little bit thicker than what these opaques were, but they're a little bit more expensive because the biggest bottles they have are these. But these are really good though. These actually go on really nice and thick with a paintbrush, and I like these a lot for specific things. But the only problem with these, they have a lot of colors, but they didn't have any of these cool bright colors that Golden had. So it's kind of like, you have certain things, you work with them and they're working great, and then the company says, all right, we're done with that, we're going to be only doing this. So that's what happens. So hopefully my review helps you guys out, gives you an idea what they're doing with the high flow. I can always say, if you're the type of painter on statues where you like to do a layer, light layer, then build up a layer, then build up a layer, it might be good. You might like these inks paints if you're into monster type stuff where you want to do the modeling, where you do the little fine light work paint and then you build that up and then you do the next color. Maybe this is for you. Maybe this will work for you. I don't know. But for me, and a lot of the superhero stuff that I do, it's a little too risky with watery paint. I just don't want any bleeding and sitting there and taking forever to get a color on the statue. So that's my review. And one of the biggest upsets, though, of the whole thing is they got rid of the burnt sienna hue out of this line. They don't make this one anymore. And this was my go-to paint for skin tones, mixing with Garage Kit Colors. But at least I'm in talks with Jesse from Garage Kit Colors. I'm going to send him some sample, and hopefully we can get something close to the burnt sienna hue in his line, so this way I can still be doing my skin tones the way I've always done and not have to worry about once my last couple bottles of this is gone, it's gone. So there you go, that's my review of the high flow. Take it or leave it. Hopefully it gives you guys some insight on what I'm finding out and what's going on. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.